Um, I'm going to start the review recording now. As you can see on our screen, what we're not going to do today is review specific content from the exam. So to answer the most recent question in the chat, which was made to me directly and the rest of you cannot see, someone asked, hello, how many units are we covering today? And the answer is no units will be covered today. What I want to do is what you see on the shared screen. I want to tell you what to expect on the exam and what the exam is like. I want to tell you why it's mellower than you think, and how to think about your performance on the exam. I want to show you what I've made available to all of my students. And those of you who are visiting from other classes will need to reach me personally to gain access to those resources that I'll give you a tour of today. Then I want to show you today the future dates when I will be available if you can benefit from more time with me. I want to talk about how you should use my resources. I want to give you some advice about how to prepare your notes between now and the exam. And then I want to briefly preview what I recommend you do the day before the exam and the day of the exam. And that's just a preview. Person who wrote this in the chat, do you have any questions about that plan for today? I'm assuming you don't because you're not. Okay, great. So number one, I'm not going to go over specific content. There's a lot of research about this, and it turns out that if I take a random sample of willing students like you, and I start to repeat content from the course, the average performance of those students will go down compared to another random assortment of students who were not retaught by the professor. Reteaching, generally, broadly, where I pick what I tell you, seems to lower the performance of students on average. That's surprising, but I believe that to be real. So what I want to do is not reteach specific things to everyone, although I'll tell you later that I remain available if you want to come back in a couple of weeks and ask me about agriculture or energy or water. I will be here for those specific questions at a later time. Evidence says you don't do better if I reteach. Student who just wrote that, I'm not sure. Reviewing information is good. I think that the variable which makes reteaching bad is when the instructor chooses what to reteach. So if I were to select content and say, I want to talk to you about agriculture and then energy and then water, because I'm choosing the content, I think that's the magic of your performance going down. And I think that the alternative is where you were to look through your existing content and say, the part I don't get is why erosion is tied to tillage. And then I could answer that question, and I believe that would help your performance. So the trade-off is you don't want me to pick what to lecture about. You want to ask me specific questions that you need. Do you understand what I said? I'm responding to chats, everyone. Cool. So the second thing on our agenda on the shared screen is what to expect on the exam. I'm going to put this link into the chat. Oh my God, if I can figure out how to do that. I'm going to put that link into the chat in a moment. Oh man, I'm a total mess. See, the problem is I just ate a whole bunch of udon and now I have a food coma. Sorry. I'm about to eventually, in a couple of minutes here, put a link in the chat. This is the one for students. Forgive my clumsiness. Now in the chat, you can see my link to the page that I'm using now. On your shared screen is the College Board's page. You could follow that link that I've pasted into the chat. I want to show you a couple things here that might be relevant for you. First of all, isn't it a description of the exam? The exams have gotten shorter. So in the time that I've been teaching this class, the exams used to be 100 multiple choice and 4 free response in 3 hours. Now it's 80 multiple choice in the same amount of time, in the same 90 minutes, and then 3 free response questions in almost as many minutes as it used to be. So honestly, I think the exams are getting a teeny bit softer. This is the breakdown of multiple choice questions, and you can go to the College Board page if you want to see that. And this is the breakdown of your 3 free response questions. We'll talk about this more right before the exam. There's just a few things I want to point out now. First of all, there will be a question that's based on you writing an experiment. You'll have a few points available for experimental design and then a few more points available for the topics of that experiment. We'll look at examples later. Then there's a very simple old school generic question where they'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points on a problem, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points on a possible solution or multiple solutions. What could government do to resolve this? What could you do in your home to resolve this? And then the third free response question will be about the same basic idea wrapped around a calculation. Usually the calculation is the A, B, C part, and then the D, E, and F sections are just relevant to the topic without using the math. You can expect on the AP exam that you will probably, as a national average, run pretty close to running out of time on 80 questions in 90 minutes, even though in my class you've done it faster. And I don't know, if you're kind of the American average, you'll probably just run out of time on the free response questions, even though you've done it a little faster in my class. We're going to talk about how to prepare for test taking. But this is the format of the exam. And if you ever have any questions, you can go to this page to see that stuff. Does anybody want to ask me about what to expect on the exam itself? You'll most likely be in the library. You'll probably be encouraged to show up at 7:30 o'clock. You'll probably want to bring a couple of pencils and a couple of pens and a fancy eraser. You may want to bring a calculator, although it's not required. You'll need food and water. They don't want you to have a label on the water. They want you to have a clear bottle of water if you want to have it out during testing. They'll ask you to leave snacks in your backpack at the entry area of the library. It'll go in that order, multiple choice first, then free response. Anybody want to ask me about what to expect on the exam? The schedule for the school day, responding to the chat, the schedule for the school day will be the same. So school will go on without you, and you'll just not show up for your morning classes. So since I know you and I usually see you in the morning, you'll just be absent on the day of the exam. We're going to have the exam without you. Sorry, we're going to have class without you. And just saying, my classes that day will do jack nothing. As a matter of fact, I'll probably be leaving the country that day. Another student in the chat, it is not digital this year. Now, about this question, the College Board has been proceeding under the assumption that all students nationwide will be able to test in person. So responding to the chat, they're driving the bus as if the bus will arrive at a paper and pencil exam like they've always had. But obviously, they have to be ready for a new strain of COVID or a new round of shutdowns. And so I think that they must have a plan B in the works in case they have to flip to digital at the last minute. That has not been advertised. There's no official plan to go digital, but I have to assume that they're ready for that. Our school, the College Board, has so far been assuming this will be a paper and pencil exam like 1998 through 2018. Next question in the chat. Kids with extra time are usually tested in a different room. I have to remind you that you require College Board accommodations, which are separate from a school 504 or IEP. For anybody here who has extra time, the process you went through at the school, where I assume you met with a doctor or clinician who wrote a report that was turned into the counselors, you have to do something similar, but that is sent from your high school counselor to the College Board, and they will designate your name, like Jose Caballero, as a student with these specific accommodations. The ones that are most common are 50% extra on reading and writing, 50% extra on math. Then some students get to write in their test book, and then there's a string of options which are more rare. If you've done that, you were supposed to receive a thing called a white letter, which is stupid because most paper is white. But it comes in an envelope and it says, bring this with you on test day. And you should talk to your counselor now to confirm that you've been designated as an accommodated student by the College Board. And if you have, when you show up on test day, there will be a big ass roster that says A through L, go to the library, and M through Z, go to the girls' gym. And then the following 3 to 5 students go to this other room where you have a different timer. Are there any other questions that you'd like to ask me in the chat about what to expect on test day? Okay, that was number 2. I wanted to tell you what's coming up on the exam, and I wanted to show you that you have this page. I also want to show you something I have that you don't have. Here's the same page for teachers. So if you want, I can show you some stuff. If you want, you can send me an email. I'll give you what's on here that you don't necessarily have access to. So this is my version of the exam page. Here's your student version. But here's my teacher version. Mine has all the stuff that I get to do by running classes about assessments I can give you and so on. But then in the discussion of the exam, I have access to the course description, which I believe is available to students somewhere, but if you ever want it, I can give you this. This is a big document. You can see over here that the course description is like hundreds of pages. And it tells you what you're supposed to know about the hydrogen fuel cell and what you're supposed to know about energy conservation, the atmosphere, and so on. This should be available to you somewhere in your student stuff, but just so you know, I can give you access to that. I also have a slightly more nuanced explanation of what's on the exam. So if you ever want, I can share this with you. And then I think both of us have access to previous exams and previous grading guidelines. If anybody ever wants access to those materials, you can send me an email and I'll find you the student link for whatever you're looking for, like the course description or previous exams. I'll show you later that I've already made that available to you in other places. Okay. Number 4, I want to convince you that the exams are mellower than you think. There's a lot of reasons why the exams are mellower than you think. Let me think where to start. First of all, the majority of teachers who teach AP Environmental Science nationwide have never been trained by the College Board. I'm not sure that that means the majority of students, because I don't know how many sections each of those teachers gets. I don't know how good you all are at math. But I think it's safe to say that a large number of America's APES students are being taught by a teacher who's never been to a College Board training. And just saying, I've been to a lot. I've been to 5. I've been to a couple of week-long institutes, a couple of specific topic trainings, and I went to a changing the exam training a couple years ago when they rewrote the course. That doesn't mean I'm a very good teacher. You all know I haven't been at my best for a long time. But it does mean that you've got a little bit of insight influencing my behavior in the classroom, the content that I give you. There's a little bit of logic behind the types of exams I give you, the way that we grade them. So I want you to know that compared to the national average, you have a little leg up in the fact that I've been doing this for a long time and I've been trained a lot, and the numbers prove this. So historically, until COVID, Santa Barbara High School APES students were somewhere in the top 10th percentile. You know, flirting with the top 10th percentile. Some years we were 89%. We were better than 89% of classes. Some years we were better than 92% of classes nationwide. So if you were to take a bell curve of all the students who are taking APES nationwide, Santa Barbara High School has been scoring as an average, you know, better than average. Nationwide, about 49 to 51% of students will pass. But at Santa Barbara High School, the number's more like 60 odd percent. Different years, kind of depends. And then the number of kids who do better than passing is pretty significant. The most common score nationwide is a 1 out of 5. The most common score at Santa Barbara High School has for many years been a 4 out of 5. Again, this isn't because of me. Thank God Elena Kahn also teaches some sections. She raises our average. But I just want you to feel like, as an institution, we're a little bit sturdier than the average nationwide. That's one thing I want you to know. Another thing I want you to know is that at high schools, we grade exams as percentage from perfection. But that's not how the College Board is grading their exams. They don't exactly use a curve. But to pass, you need a lot less than you would think. Every year, this number changes. Every year, this number changes. I don't want you to quote me on this specifically, but as a rough number, the cutoff between students who pass and students who fail is right around 58 to 62 out of 100 on the multiple choice. Now that it's out of 80, it would be 58 to 62% out of 80. So that would be like 41 to 48 out of 80. And on the free response, the cutoff between the students who fail and the students who get a 3 or better is right around a 3 out of 10, maybe a 4 out of 10, depending on the question. There's a lot of mathematical complexity about how this is calculated, so I don't want you to get overly confident, but I want you to know that if you got a 75% on the multiple choice and a 5 out of 10 on each of the free response, you definitely passed. Every year, no exception. Thumbs up if you heard that. I gotta say, I think that's a powerful punchline. I really believe that that's actually a powerful punchline. If you could get a 75% on the multiple choice and a 5 out of 10 on the free response, you'd be guaranteed a 3 or better, probably flirting with a 4. So now ask yourself, if you really study and you've been coming to class and you have good notes, don't you usually get kind of in that ballpark? Considering the exam might be harder, there's things I haven't taught you. I'm a jackass. I fell asleep at the wheel. We're teaching faster because the principal changed the bell schedule, whatever. I still think like that's attainable. So I don't want you to stress out trying to achieve like an 80% or better. You really don't need that much. If you want to know what I predict for you, I'm going to write on a black screen. It takes me a minute. It's going to be sloppy, but I want to try something. Let me see if this will work. There's a question in the chat. Each of the free response questions has 10 points possible. So question number 1 has A, B, C, D, E, or something. 10 points possible for question number 1. Then separately 10 points possible for question number 2. Then separately 10 points possible for question number 3. So there's a total of 30 points possible in the free response section. you can reach a 3 to 4% average by doing really well in question one, completely blanking on question two, and doing about half the points on question C. You would there have maybe 14 out of 30. I think that would be a safe bet at a pass. To answer that question in the chat. Let's see here. Okay. I'm writing on your screen. Thumbs up if you see that. Thank you. On the left, I have your exam average after the curve before your extra credit or corrections are calculated. So this is your curved exam average. And over the years, I've been looking for a correlation with your AP score. I find year in and year out that some students drop Sorry, this is super sloppy because it's really awkward to write here. I also notice that some students, let me find a new color, some students go up. And then I'm sure that you can imagine the majority of students kind of go straight across. You guys, this isn't a promise. I'm not promising you jack. Miss Khan runs a really tight ship. Maybe she can make you a promise, but I cannot. I'm sorry, I'm not promising anything. But what I notice is the kids who go straight across, I'll ask them, yo, how much did you study in my end of the year survey that I give my students right before we all leave? I give them this like Google sheet where they like press all the buttons. And then I run a report that gives me their average exam grades, their AP score, and then their response on these. And if you want to follow that blue line for you, that seems to be about 12 to 15 hours of independent study time outside of school, working on your own before the exam, 12 to 15 hours. Those like badasses that like do better than their average, I'm seeing those kids report about 20 to 30 hours. And the kids who slump, the ones who go down, they're telling me about 0 to 5 hours in the month leading up to the exam. So one thing that you could do is ask yourself how much you want to study, you have available to study, you plan to study, and how well you've been doing in my class. Students in Ms. Khan's class, I really can't say because I don't have this data for you. Students in my class, I think kids suffer more with the testing. I think my students tend to do worse on the unit exams. And so if you're in my classes, you could ask yourself, are you an A, B, C, D, F student? And then you could just kind of like, well, if you have an A, you could theoretically not study at all, And I think you're doing better than a coin flip that you're going to pass. There's always some kid that gets straight A's in my class and fails it. I have a couple from previous years. It's really sad. You should know that COVID scrambled this correlation. So this was a lot stronger before COVID. It like the P factor of reliability for this went way down. Like the percentage of students who match this went way down with COVID. But before COVID, this was a pretty trustworthy correlation. So we're going to find out this year if it remains a trustworthy correlation. Even if you've been doing badly, if you got the time and you've got the huevos to go really big, you could do 20 to 30 hours of studying and you could follow that dark green line uphill. This is what I have seen in the years that I've been teaching. So I kind of tell all my students, like, you know, if you're reasonably confident that you have the time and you've been doing well enough to pass, if you think you could get, you know, like a 75 and maybe half on the free response, I think your chances are pretty good. I'm going to give you so many review materials that it'll blow your mind. Student in the chat, oh yes, I offer a lot of stuff. Are there any questions about why I'm so confident that you'll do better than you think? I should add there's another variable that I haven't mentioned. You grew up in Santa Barbara. And that sounds to you like no big deal because you grew up here, but I'm trying to think of who I know. I don't know, maybe a couple of you came from previous places. I can't really recall. But anyway, there's kids who grew up in a state where nobody talks environmental nothing, but you grew up in a state where the words of the conversation have been around more. Like you've heard methane or greenhouse gas or carbon capture or cap and trade or climate change about 10 times more than some kid who grew up in the middle of like Dallas, Texas, or, you know, North Dakota or Kansas or Wyoming or Florida or whatever. So you have like another advantage that I haven't mentioned yet. I think you're going to do better than you think. And the person who said you're worried about forgetting what you learned in the fall, I have so much faith in the brain that you don't have. There's this fascinating thing where the human brain really doesn't forget anything. It just loses track of information. So that if you can rebuild your secondary memory map, there's a little part of your brain that's really good at looking through all the crap that's on the top of your brain. If you can get that sorting part to remap all that information, you never forgot it, you just lost track of it. So for the person who wrote this message to everybody else, this person said, I'm worried I'm going to forget what I learned in the fall. I'm not worried about that. What's amazing is it's still in there. I'm like 45, I just turned 45. People will come up to me, remind me of something, and I'm like, now that you mention it, I totally remember you from high school, or I remember you used to wear those hooded sweatshirts with the long thing, or like, oh yeah, we used to go hang out over behind the Vons or whatever. And like, you never lose those things. You just lose track of them. So for the person who wrote something in the chat, it's absolutely real. You're right that the stuff you learn in the fall won't be on the tip of your tongue, but you can bring it back. It doesn't take very much. You'll be amazed how well you do. Because San Marcos has been teaching on the 4x4 block schedule for many, many years, we know that the students who do fall AP exams, fall AP classes versus spring AP classes tend to do about as well. It's pretty shocking. But they don't have a huge disparity. Nationwide, There seems to be a little tax on the kids who take it in the fall because they forget, but there's a little tax on the kids who take it in spring because they have less instructional time. These kids had a full semester. Spring kids only get 60 days before the AP exam hits on day 61. So nationwide, I'm not worried about that. What else do you guys want to know about number 4? Why I'm not that worried? Okay, if you're on a device, please go to Neo. Oops. Oh, yeah. Please go to Neo. Then go to Units. Then go at the bottom. It goes Unit 9, Unit 10, and then it goes to the review materials, and open the page that says all review materials and plan. Students from previous semesters, I believe you can still access Neo. Is that correct? Good, good. I believe you should have access to this page. There's a lot of stuff here. There's my lifetime collection of review materials is here. I have a lot of things for you. I want to show you what's on here. First of all, you can see on the shared screen, there's a link to the review book. And wouldn't you know it, there's only one left in stock. What about used? Yeah, there might be more than one used left in stock. There's other sellers that might have more of them available. To the student who's messaging me in the chat, I don't know if I can give you access to Neo if you're not in my class. Send me an email or come visit me at lunch or seminar. For everybody else, remember, first of all, you're welcome. For everybody else, you can see that there's a review book. It's the only one I recommend. I have I have a lot of these in my classroom. The review book is available if you need to check one out from me and you can't get one from Amazon. Number 2, this is the video that I made doing this last year. So I'm going to replace this link with the recording I'm making right now if it'll work. Then I've got a bunch of stuff for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to go through these one by one. And then student who told me about that broken link, thank you. I'll try to improve the access later. So for everybody else, please go to your shared screen now. You should have access to everything. If not, let me know. I'll try to open access. But first of all, I have a huge review packet. It's a PDF. You should all have access. This is slightly outdated, I'll be honest, but it has an outline of the course. It has a really helpful review. You can see it on the shared screen. It's like flashcards, maybe 5 pages worth. It's got a chemistry review of all the chemistry in my version of the course. So the basics, abbreviations, a little bit about pH that's not normally in my class, some stuff about nuclear fission, which I think the College Board is cutting out, but anyway, some stuff about air pollution, smog, acid precipitation, ozone making and ozone breaking. Then there's a math review, about 20 practice questions that will work on your scientific notation. Then they'll work on your unit conversions, they'll work on your percentages, and they'll work on your energy math. Then there's some conversion pages to help you with like units and stuff. And then there's a link on experimental design. To the person who told me you don't have access to the experimental design page, please note that it's in the main review packet. You'll see later why the experimental design is important. Then I have like a cram page about invasive species. I have a cram page about the 10 most polluted sites on Earth. All of that is just the main review packet. Then I have another review packet that was made for me by a previous student. You can see it on your shared screen now. It was made by a friend of mine named India. She's now a student in Canada, and she had really inspiring things to tell me about going to college in Montreal. So if you ever want to talk about college options, I'll tell you what she said. But anyway, I'll tell you what she said. These are your task terms that they'll ask you in the free response questions. There's some famous legislation, some famous biomes, like a little breakup of stuff to know from each of the units. I mean, this is like really nice. If you ever wanted just like cram materials, she's made all of this available. She made 20 pages. And then she gifted this to all the students of the future because she really enjoyed the course. So she wanted you all to have this. I thought that was really lovely. Anyway, that's just number one on my list of stuff I've given you. There's a link to a list of laws. This is from another textbook, not yours, that lists the major US legislation and the major global legislation. And like I say here, I'm not a big fan of making you memorize stuff, but honestly, I think it might be a good shot if you have a few minutes. Then I have this thing about experimental design. One of my students told me that this link is broken to the experimental design checklist. Apparently I have access, but maybe you don't. This tells you how to design an experiment. You could send me an email and I'll make sure that you personally get access. But you should know that experimental design has become a permanent feature as of 2019. I saw that email. Thank you. I'll respond later. Experimental design has recently become a permanent feature of the exam. So look at my shared screen. Here's the FRQ for 2019. The FRQ for 2020 is locked up because of, I don't know, COVID something or other. But there was a sample question for 2020 about experimental design. And then in 2021, both of them had an experimental design question. I will recommend that you use the worksheet I've made, that checklist, to answer these questions. There's only a few specific examples. Then if you'll continue to look at my shared screen, there was this like old school type of question where they asked you to do other, let me see, it's right here, where they asked you to do other experimental design questions, but back in the day, like in 1999, 2001, 03, and 2012. You're welcome to try those too. It is important that you practice experimental design. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong stuff, but here are the examples of experimental design questions. You should practice that. I'll show you where that fits in the review calendar in a minute. Then I have a link to what I believe is every free response question ever. So here's 1998, 1999, 2000, 2001, whatever. It's 44 pages. Mine's not uploading because all of our bandwidth is dedicated to this Zoom. But I've got questions all the way to 2018 in that PDF. Then I have In addition to all of those, the FRQs for 2019, and like I was saying, sample for 2020 and last year's 2 different versions. So you have every single free response question available there. I'll show you later why I think those are helpful. If you're into AP Classroom, I've made a giant FRQ with all of them in the digital format that you can do it online. And then the nice thing about AP Classroom is you can see the key to each of those questions. Same thing, I've got old school PDF of released multiple choice questions and old school PDF of the answer keys, or if you prefer, I've got 3 of them in AP Classroom. We just got to figure out how to give everybody the same types of access. Because AP Classroom is not familiar to me, I'm not sure if the fall kids or if the con kids will have the same access, but I'm willing to try. We would need email for that. And in AP Classroom, I can show you these evaluations if you want to use that format. So you can practice free response, you can practice multiple choice. Last of all, here's another thing I've put in the review page. I've made slide decks that are like flashcards, you know? What do they call the, it's like, is that called Quizlet or Quizler or something? Somebody want to tell me this so I don't have to look like an idiot?
Quizlet.
Thank you. There's something similar to that format with like a prompt that'll ask you a question and then show you the answer when you press the screen again. So I've made slide decks back before Quizlets were common. And these will tell you common errors that students make year after year. So like there's a whole bunch of stuff that students keep making mistakes. By the way, this is based on reports that used to be issued by the College Board. They used to tell us what the persistent misunderstandings were. So I made you a review slide deck of common errors. And you know, you can just download those to your phone. So if you're stuck on a drive to volleyball game in Santa Ynez, you can just flip through your slide decks on your phone and you can like digital flashcard format. There's the thing about chemistry. There's a thing about famous places. There's another one for the laws, for the species, and then a whole bunch of like general cramming slides, 2 of them. All these resources are available in the review materials. And then there's also a plan for how I think you should go through all of this stuff before the AP test. Are there any questions about the tour of what I've made available in my NEO review page? I wanted to finish like 15 minutes ago and I'm still not done, so I want to speed up. Are there any questions about what's on NEO? To the person who put this in the chat, you tell me, bro, I don't know how much you feel you've learned. This person asked me, is the Smarty Pants book enough to study, or do I recommend studying a variation of resources? I think they meant to say. I think that the more you study, the better you'll do. I've been a bad student and I've been a good student, and studying never hurts. I don't know. If you feel like you're really confident and you've been scoring really well, I don't know that you need any of this. If you feel like you really need to bolster your APES credentials, the study guide would help. I kind of think that the Smarty Pants guide is a really good way to beef up your notes. But the more different things you do, the better your outcomes will be. Are there other questions about what I shared in NEO? I'm about to speed up then. Please look at my shared screen now. You'll notice today is the 4th. My daughter's birthday is in 2 days, y'all. Today's the 4th of April. Monday next week, I'll probably be here at 8 p.m. Keep an eye open on the reminders. And that'll just be the one to get you started in your review. That should hopefully be a half hour or less. Then I'll have another one the Monday after where I will definitely be here to help you fill in gaps in your note taking. That'll be on Monday the 18th at 8 p.m. Monday the 25th, I don't know, maybe to just check in to see how the review is going. I haven't really decided. Maybe I'll be here. Then the Monday before the AP exam, I'm almost certainly going to be here at 8 p.m. And then on Tuesday the 3rd, you'll have to go to the high school before 8 a.m. to go take your exam. And while you're walking in to take the exam, I'm probably going to be sliding out because I'm going to Mexico. And then I'll see you a couple days after the exam. Thank you for the person who said that. You can tell her too. It's the 6th. Now, the last thing that I really want to spend some time on is to talk about the review, how you should review. And it's all spelled out for you, so I don't really need to drag this out. But are there any questions about the future review dates? All right, I want to show you how you should review, and then we're almost done. Back to Neo. I've made a plan. Please look up. It has a specific date. It'll tell you what to do. So first, there's a week when you improve your notes. You'll take all of your existing notes. You'll go through the study guides. It helps if you work with another person, and you can quiz each other and say, oh, I didn't have that in my notes. And you're going to revisit your notes. The person who said you're worried about what you forgot from the fall, this is how you remind your brain where that information is. You have to go through your old notes, not new stuff. And if something's missing, you say, yo, homie, what was that answer? And then you can add to your existing notes. This is probably the most important part of review. That'll start, this weekend. That'll go for another week after that. Then there's like a couple of days when I recommend 3 little trivia assignments. Look at a world map and understand all the places that are famous. Look through all of your notes, resources, and try to find all the important people. Look through all of your notes and resources and try to find the famous topics globally, what we call case studies. Then on April 20th, on April 20th, you'll start to do the multiple choice practice tests. On April 21st, you'll grade those. On April 22nd and 23rd, you'll find more practice multiple choice and grade those. The whole reason to grade them is just to fix up your notes. Nobody cares about the scores. Then I want you to go in the specific order. I want you to have a chemistry day to review all the chemistry that you've got in the entire class, and just chemistry, nothing else. Then there's a few days that I want you to do the practice FRQs. There's 1 day set aside to do the experimental design stuff, and 1 day set aside to do all the math stuff. And then there's a couple of days where you're going to cram. But please notice, there's no more new information after the 1st of May. At that point, all you're doing is going through your packet of notes and nothing else. Don't try to learn new stuff at the last minute. It makes you confused. You'll score worse. No more new information. Whatever you've got by the end of May 1 is all the information you get to take to the exam. No new information. Trust me. Students who've been in my class might know I keep bragging about this, that I got my master's on how your brain works when you absorb information and how you pull information out during testing. I swear, there's a bunch of research on that last day before the exam. All you do is plan for the exam, get your pencils lined up, get your eraser, pick out your frumpiest sweatpants, make sure that you have a clear water bottle with no label, and just go through your notes, nothing else, so that on exam day, you guys can all walk in to do well on the exam. I'll give you some strategies later. And I can pack my bags so I can leave for Mexico and not be worried about your performance. This is how you will review. Are there any questions about that review plan? And can I have a thumbs up so I know you're still alive? I want to make sure that I'm not speaking to nothing. Thank you. All right. We're almost done. One thing I got to tell you is get all your notes together. No, the person who gave me that chat, everyone gets the same free response question. Unless they have to go to a digital test and there's version 1 and version 2 of the exam. In normal years, everybody who takes the test at the same time, like morning of May 3rd, everyone will be taking the exact same exam. So there's 4 questions with one answer key for all 4 of them, or three questions with one answer key for all 3 of them. The only students who get different FRQs are the students who have to do an emergency retake. Like if you get hit by a car, then they have like a standardized plan B option where you do a retake like 3 weeks later. And those tend to be the suckier questions. They write a whole bunch, they pick the best, and then they take the second best and make those for the losers who got hit by a car. So you'll get like the 2.0 exam if you do a later retake because of an emergency. And I don't really know how that works. I believe the assistant principals handle that. Okay, somebody asked me a really important question. They said, do I suggest they rewrite the student notes or instead keep them in the system that we've used so far of like units and assignment, like 6.4 is due tomorrow? I strongly recommend that you keep your original notes and keep writing on the same paper. As ugly and messy as that's going to get, that's really important for that little part of your brain that maps out the info. So whatever you've got, just make sure it has a clear label, make sure it's bundled by units, and keep working with those papers. Any new sources, any new experience, add it to the appropriate section, because you're giving what's called a secondary memory cue to the part of your brain that's sorting out all that content. Let's say that next month you find out a detail of hydrogen fuel cell function that you didn't have before that you'd like to remember. When you write that on the paper that says hydrogen fuel cell, that little organizational part of your brain will take that new content and literally build a neuron map to the previous hydrogen fuel cell content. So it's critical that you keep using your notes in the current system and just keep adding to those notes. Somebody says, if I took Ms. Khan's class and want to copy my friend's notes who took your class, would that still be okay? To this student, I have a couple things. Number one, I want to assume that Ms. Khan would not want to give you credit for that. So I don't know what you were asking precisely, but one thing is, I'm pretty confident that she doesn't want you to take content from elsewhere and use that instead of your work in her class. But separately, if you mean, can you use another source of information to improve your notes? The answer is hell yes. Whether you took Miss Khan's class or my class or some other class, there's big brain science on a couple of details. Number one, keep using your original notes. In your case, take whatever paper you got from Miss Khan's class, I don't know, and on that physical actual paper, ask one of Jose's students, hey, what's that thing about hydrogen fuel cells? And then if somebody gives you information from my class, the best way for you to learn that is to take the information from my class or the Smarty Pants guide or from YouTube or from your grading of the practice exams, any outside sources. The best way for your brain to incorporate that is to write those other points of information in your existing Mrs. Khan's hydrogen fuel cell notes or whatever. Wherever they fit your old paper, new information goes there. Does that answer your question? Anybody else want to ask me about how to review? Oh, wow. Sorry. All right. Best review strategies depends on how far you are from the exam. Somebody asked me in the chat, what's the best review strategy? It depends how far you are. So that little part of your brain that sorts out information has a limit to how many things it can remember. So you can do this. If I give you 52 cards off a deck, you remember the top 3 for a long time. 7 of diamonds, the 3 of hearts, and the king of diamonds. You'll remember the top 3. But then like the 4th, 5th, and 6th, those will fade pretty fast. And then the 7th, 8th, or 9th, you already forgot them. And then the rest of the deck, you never stood a chance. The same is true with review. So that's why most of this timeline is building knowledge. The person who asked that question, you're building knowledge, building knowledge, building knowledge, building knowledge until about here. And then you're only starting to get stuff that I want you to remember for roughly 10 days, which is about as long as you can remember information. So the best review strategy to answer your question depends what day it is. Use this plan. It's not a Jose plan. It's a brain science structure plan. Anybody else want to ask me how you'll review or about your notes? You don't really need to do anything until the 9th. The first day of review is the 9th. For everybody who's not in my class, take a screenshot now. I'm assuming you got a screenshot. And now take a screenshot again. And if you're not in my class, take the last screenshot now. Cool. This review plan is what I'd like you to start doing. I swear I didn't just make this up. I've been changing the dates on this for many, many years. You're supposed to start, I think the 9th is Saturday, Sunday, something like that, Saturday. And then I'll see you back here on the 11th to see how it's going. You may want a screenshot of this if you're not in my class. And I guess that's it. I don't know. What else can I, now I'm done. What can I do for you? Okay. I'm going to stay on this chat for 60 seconds. Yes, I will keep sending out information in text. You're welcome. Anybody else? I've got 45 seconds left. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm leaving in about 20 seconds. You're welcome. Welcome. Okay, nice to meet you. I will now end our session. Bye-bye.